and welcome to this August council meeting. It is the 22nd of August and it's 5:30, so we are away. Council acknowledge and pay respects to the Tasmanian Aboriginal community as the traditional and original owners and continuing custodians of this land. All persons in attendance are advised that it's council policy to record council meetings in accordance with council's digital recording policy. The digital recording of this meeting will be made available to the public on council's website for a minimum period of 6 months. And a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed on council's YouTube channel. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies, and we have apologies from Councillor Milborn and Councillor Ennis. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest in any item on this agenda?
Yes, Mayor. Agenda item 5.6, and I will stay in the room. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Laycock. Are there any other declarations of interest? No? We will move on to item 3 is procedural matters, and item 3.1 is confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of the 25th of July. Could I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, the second one.
Happy to second that.
Councillor Laycock, thank you. Any comment, Councillor Murphy?
Merely procedure, Mayor.
Councillor Laycock?
Nothing to add.
Any comments, questions from anyone else in the gallery? No, not in the gallery? Around the table? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 3.2 is public question time, and item 3.2.1 is responses to questions raised at prior meetings. There is a recommendation.
So moved. Second.
Councillor Perry and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
Merely procedural, Mayor, nothing to add, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
I confer with Councillor Perry, Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any comments, questions from any other councillors? I'll ask Councillor Perry to close.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 3.2.2 is questions on notice from the public, and there is a recommendation there for a response to a question raised.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you.
Second.
Councillor Perry, Councillor Murphy.
Yes, the question's been raised, Mayor, and answered, and we'll take the appropriate course of action.
Thank you. Councillor Perry.
Nothing further to add, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? I will ask Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 3.2.3 is questions without notice from the public. Opportunity for members of the gallery to step up to the microphone and ask questions. Simply stating your name and address in the first instance. Thank you.
Bob Bellicott, 11 Cocker Place, Devonport. Mayor and Councillors, question 1. I refer to the successful notice of motion moved by Councillor Lynn Laycock and seconded by Councillor Hollister on the 28th of January 2020. The motion being that the Council consider in a workshop building a rotunda at Joshua Slocum Park and erect an interpretive sign with the name Joshua Slocum Park for the enjoyment of residents and tourists who visit the area. I note only you and Mayor Councillor Jarman voted against it. Also, much media cover was given, for example, photos and write-up. Please, will you inform if a workshop has been held and if Council intends to progress the idea of constructing another rotunda?
We certainly held a workshop. I think we'll take on notice as to the results of that. Thank you, Mr. Bellicott.
Thank you.
It's a long time ago now.
Question 2, I refer to the 2021 AGM in regard to the successful notice of motion to provide parking concessions for those who have paid rates for 50 years or more. And one of the objections raised by management was the possibility of the loss of revenue. Can the General Manager give an indication how many have applied for the concession?
We'll take that on notice, Mr. Belcock. Thank you. Make sure we give you the right answer.
Question 3. I note at the commencement of each council meeting and at other meetings and or functions which you, Mayor, councillors and or staff preside, an acknowledgement of country is made. Is this now a mandatory legislative requirement for all councillors and staff?
I don't believe so. It's just become part of our beginning of meetings. Thank you, Mr. Belcock.
It's just, can
I
I clarify?
don't believe that it's mandatory. No, that was the answer to the question.
It's not mandatory. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the members of the government?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. My name's Douglas Janney, 23 Watkinson Street, Devonport. The question: when will the council have a permanent eyes on the street, and that person will look at the council assets of roads, footpaths, verges, trees, etc., and report back any issues that need to be fixed?
Mr. Janney, I would assume, I know that is a constant part of our council staff job, so I'm confident that that happens day by day.
But I'm talking about a permanent eyes on the streets, one person to go around and look at all that. There's a hell of a lot of it.
Thank you, Mr. Janney. Are there any other comments, questions? Any other questions from the government? No, thank you. We'll move on. Item 3.3 is questions on notice from councillors, and they're well known at the compilation of the agenda. Item 3.4 is notices of motion, and item 3.4.1 is naming of public open space, a motion by Councillor Laycock.
Thank you, Mayor. I intend to move the alternate motion. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, so so it is the motion that was suggested by staff at the end of the report, which is on the screen now, and it's moved by Councillor Laycock and seconded by Councillor Murphy. Councillor Laycock, thank you.
Thank you. I would like to read it just in case some can't read it. That council hold a workshop to determine the process of naming the area currently known as Waterfront Park, noting that the process should include suitable public consultation and Lions Plaza be included as one of the names presented for public consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
And yes, continue on. And I'm also going to read the support notes for the history side of this and the reason that I put it forward. Joseph and Dame Enid Lyons' political and family partnership is unmatched in Australia's political history. In Devonport, and their house Home Hill was central to all they achieved. This is where they sought refuge, rest and renewal from public life, and where they contemplated issues that were facing Australia and the world. Both spoke regularly and publicly about the significance Devonport and Home Hill played in their lives. Dame Enid described her return to Devonport and Home Hill after a short period of living in Hobart while Joe was Premier of Tasmania. And this is a quote directly from Dame Enid. There had been a wonderful moment on the road where the forest ended abruptly and where we came to open country within sight of the sea. Even today, as I approach the spot on a homecoming journey, memory never fails to recall the scene and the sensations of that morning long ago. The mounting excitement of the children, our own feelings as we approached the goal of our hopes, and then suddenly the sight of the lovely rolling farmlands, warm in the spring sunshine, and the distant shimmering sea. A few more miles and we come to our Shangri-La. Nothing disappointed us. Nothing, I believe, could have disappointed us. The wide free access for the children, the trees, the birds, and for Joe and me, the restfulness of familiar scenes, the quiet and the freedom from the exhausting round of public engagements. These made it a paradise indeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Thank you, Mayor. I support Councillor Laycock in bringing this motion. It's interesting that that Donated's quote there is very much almost reminiscent of when you come up over the hill and you look at Chapel Road and you look out to the north, and as you come up out of Parramatta Creek. And I too get that sensation when driving back from Launceston to Hobart, that you know that you're close to home, and it's just a wonderful part of the world. But I think also that the council has demonstrated most recently its effectiveness in being able to seek real community consultation in these types of matters. So I think taking the workshop and then going through an appropriate process has been recommended will be fabulous.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Are there any other comments? Councillor Perry?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I support the comments of the previous two speakers. And we will get to that stage where we'll have the workshop. The Lions Plaza itself, to speak to that, I think the naming of that area has to be a blend of, I guess, contemporary words, plaza, and history. And I think Lions Plaza encapsulates both those particular paradigms, if you like. And I think, you know, this won't be the decision tonight, of course, but we need to give that particular name due consideration. It probably won't be a workshop that I'll be at, but I think that's a good start, and you know, I think it's going to require a pretty good name or a pretty good blend of history and contemporary wording, if you like, to be better than that. So I look forward to the naming of it when it happens, and I congratulate Councillor Laycock for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Laycock to close.
Thank you, Mayor. I think I don't think I know, the political history of this couple can't be matched anywhere in Australia. I mean, here you have Dame Enid Lyons. She's a double dame, a dame by the British Empire and a dame by the Australian government. The first woman in Cabinet, the first woman in the House of Representatives. And if that doesn't tell you something, guess what? Her husband was the Premier. He was also the only Prime Minister to come from Tasmania. And how lucky are we here in Devonport, Tasmania, to have this home sitting up there on the hill. That history's there, so we should make the most of it. It's something that we can be very, very proud of, that these two, you know, put their hand up for public office, especially when Dame Enid, after Joseph's death, while he was alive she had 12 children, but after his death she did put up her hand up to go into federal politics. So it's a wonderful story. We own it. People are amazed by it, and we just need to have people aware of it all the time. And personally, I envisage, if the name does go through after the public consultation, a nice sign that explains, as a photo of Home Hill and the link to the National Trust so they can book. We talk about people walking around our city not knowing where to go. I feel that that's what we do with our sign. We've got a signage strategy coming up. And that's what it's all about, and people then can be guided towards Home Hill up there at 77 Middle Road if you've never visited. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Laycock. We'll close the vote and put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously.
And if I may say so, Mayor, I know I'm being very rude here, but that's a wrap. That's my last motion for 20 years. Thank you. Well done, Linda. Thank you. There's a few, no, of course.
Item 4 is planning authority matters, and we don't have any to consider this evening. Item 5 is reports. Item 5.1 is the tender report for contract CT 0332. Councillor Perry and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
It's all in the report, Mayor, and it's good to see that we're coming in under budget in what we described as pretty expensive civil construction times. So well done to Council for achieving that, and look forward to it being completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy?
Nothing more further than that, really, Mayor.
Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Perry to close.
Consider it closed.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.2 is tender report for contract CTO 33301. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, seconder.
Happy to second that.
Councillor Laycock, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
I'll follow on from Councillor Perry. It's all in the report there, Mayor, and again, under budget, so it's good.
Thank you, councillor Laycock.
Nothing to add.
Any other comments, questions? Councillor Perry, your light's still on. Thank you. Councillor Murphy to close.
Consider it closed.
Beg your pardon, councillor Hollister.
Just that it's good, that pleasing to see that these quotes are coming in under budget, with all the civil constructions that's going on around the town and everywhere in Tassie. It's pleasing that we can find the civil construction people that can do the work to our budgets, which is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Back to you, councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to follow on then from Councillor Hollister, it is good to see local government supporting local enterprise in being able to remain local.
Thank you. I will close the debate and put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 5.3 is tender report for contract CTO 33302. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Councillor Hollister, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Yes, Mayor, it's all there in the report, yet again.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Same as before. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the debate.
Consider it closed then.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.4 is a request to acquire title CT 44775/1 at 12A Stony Rise Road.
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Perry and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. The report will say that this little piece of land out on Stony Rise near Fair Brothers is of no value really to Taswater or council, which was thought for many years that there was some issues out there that for some reason we needed to keep that piece of land because of stuff going underneath the ground, but that's been found to be no longer the case. So it makes no sense for that to be in local government or even Taswater's hands, and it makes a lot of sense for that to become part of Fair Brothers property at an independent valuation price, which we received. It's noted in the report. So, yeah, can't really add much more than that for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Common sense recommendation really, and let the negotiating process begin. Obviously, if Fair Brother don't see the value in that parcel of land, they may come back with a counter offer or whatever, but at the end of the day, there's no value to council, and potentially the enhanced value with what they're proposing to do from a development perspective would only benefit the community anyway, so nothing further.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Perry to close.
Consider it closed. Thank
I'll
you.
put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.5 is the Black Box Studio recommendation. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Jarman and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Jarman.
Thank you. Look, first of all, I'd just like to thank Jeff Dobson for all the work he's done in compiling this report. I'm sorry I missed the workshop the other night, Jeff. This is a wonderful, finally, a wonderful item that is being brought to our notice. Going back 25 years since we lost the John Carroll Theatre all those years ago, which is over at the south end of Brook Street. And ever since then, the theatre community has been screaming out for a black box theatre style in place. And thoroughly, we have had so many different consultations, so many workshops, so many times that people have been brought together to talk about this. And I feel like it's finally got that little light at the end of the tunnel. And I do appreciate the fact that we had access and availability at the new Perinatal Arts Centre, that there was a possibility of having a black box theatre put above. However, it's always not the best idea to have a black box theatre up on another level, especially with a lot of bumping in and bumping out with different stage amenities. So for this to now turn into possibly a versatile working space that it's turning out to be, our pavilion's just become such the go-to place for everybody to say, can we do this there, can we do that there? And now if we can look at having a black box theatre there as well, but keeping it versatile for everything else, I'm really, really pleased to see it get to this point. And I'm quite excited by the thought that we could finally have a space that not only the theatre companies can use, let alone any people that are coming over from the mainland, but we might get to the point where the schools can utilise it as well. So I certainly think that we're almost there, and I'm really pleased to see it come through like this. I have got a question, if I may, through you, Madam Chair, to Mr Dobson. How will we go with some of the wonderful tenants that we've got now down in the pavilion? How do you think we'd going if say that there was something that was booked as a black box theatre event with some of the late night events that these tenants want to put on, so that they're not clashing with sound?
Mr Dobson, thank you.
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. We did discuss that at workshop briefly.
Yeah, sorry, I was.
And we resolved that that's a case of the engineers, and that the building fabrication, or fabric of the building as it is now, we're perhaps aware isn't as noise-proof or as isolating as it could be. However, we suspect that we'd be able to flesh that out through any concept development stage through the scope of the project.
Could it get to the point where we could at least say to some of the tenants down there, can you wait until 10:30 before you put something on, and then, because that event here will be finished by then, and maybe we could work together collaboratively?
In fairness, I think we do that now, particularly with the Town Hall Theatre performances. We have a good relationship with the tenants there in terms of when the noise level rises or falls, and on the weekend we did have a private event in the pavilion on Friday night, and it all worked as we'd expect to.
Brilliant. No, it sounds great, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Darman. Councillor Murphy, is there something there?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, it really is an exciting opportunity in the organic transformation of Market Square Pavilion space. I strongly believe that this type of facility will only complement what we're actually doing here now. So with upstairs and providing the opportunity for conference growers to potentially use it as a dining space, for example. The many uses that were put to us at the workshop was really exciting, and again, commend Mr Dobson in relation to the detail in his report. And it is going to provide, in my opinion, greater opportunities in the future for a wide variety of other users in that space. So we'll watch that space and see it continue to grow. Well done.
Thank you. Councillor Merkel?
Thank you, Meg. I actually attended that dinner on Friday night in the Market Square, and I have to say there was that much noise within that area. We didn't hear what was happening outside. So whether they'd tuned themselves down a bit, but I don't think that's going to be a major problem as long as we have the retractable seating and that, because I'd hate to lose that space. I think today's conferences are all geared at not staying in the same room. Most of us have been to mini conferences, and you're there for a breakfast drink, a lunch drink, your lunch, your conference, and you come back at night for the dinner. It's refreshing, and I was very proud of this council. On Friday night we had drinks to start with in the art gallery, which was absolutely beautiful. Then we went across to dinner, and then the next day, the full day, was up on level 3 at our convention centre. However, I also understand you could have after that you could have the black box operating for the same people, because they do normally have a 2-day conference, and it's a breakout area. So I think that will be the icing on the cake. So that's great. And I do say, Alison, Councillor Jarman, congratulations, because you've pursued this all the way through. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alexander?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with fellow councillors. Congratulations both Jeff Dobson on putting the report together. The tip for me was really, there is a market there for the black box theatre, especially in Devonport, going back in the history, noting that the Living City did have the black box theatre to be constructed somewhere. It's an ideal space, I think, where it's going to be going at Market Square, and I think it's going to be a great tourist attraction for the tourists coming into the state to visit Devonport. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alexia. Councillor Holster?
Yes, I'm supporting this as well. I actually remember going to the John Carroll Theatre many years ago for quite a few shows. And even when I was a bit younger than that, I actually used to sew rolls of carpet together there by hand. That is a long time ago. So I think it was well used back then, and I think it'll be more so even here now in today's circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Jarman to close.
Thank you, and I think I'd really like to put a shout out to Lindy Hingston and Sid Sybottom for all the work they've done over the years with coming in to be part of the consultation. I know there's been a lot of other people that have also put in a lot of time and effort into these things, but Lindy and Sid have been there along for the ride right from the beginning and have always been really trying to push for this as well. So I really want to thank them, and I hope you're watching tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Close the debate and put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.6 is the National Trust Partnership Agreement, noting that Councillor Laycock has declared an interest, but is remaining in the room. Do I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Jarman, thank you. Do I second that? Councillor Holster, thank you. Councillor Jarman.
I don't think I could be as eloquent as Councillor Laycock in this suggestion, but I know that I wholeheartedly approve of this, and I think it's wonderful that we're continuing with our partnership that has always worked so well with the National Trust. They do a very, very good job with looking after and helping us make the most of our facility. Council do a huge amount of work up there too. So this partnership agreement just makes sense, and hope to see it continuing for many, many more years to come. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Holster.
Yes, for years, I think the potential for Home Hill hasn't met what it should do. I think it's years ago, I remember a committee meeting where we looked at partnerships with the federal government and that, and never seemed to really get off the ground like it should. So hopefully further developments will bring it to what it really should be. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Sorry, Councillor. Sorry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment that the work the team they do behind the scenes at Home Hill, and I think it's not really recognised that how much hard work goes into that. A lot of extra time and forward planning, and I think it's great that we're supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Jarman to close the debate.
And if anyone's listening out there, please, if you haven't visited Home Hill, please do. Very important that you do. The motion is closed. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.7 is Devonport City Council's submission to local government reform. Do I move it, please?
Yes, I move.
Second.
Councillor Jarman and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Jarman.
We're at that time. It's moving into the next phase, and it's really looking like this is one that's actually going to maybe get off the ground, which I'm really excited about. Our council has worked very hard, and I thank Mr Atkins and his team for helping to get this off the ground. We're not afraid to say what we think, and I think that's very important for a council of our size. And we need to see this through, and we need to be part of it, and we need to be part of the decision making. So I think that we're working well with this. The review team are doing a great job, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we get to with the next phase. I really do think that this one's actually going to be something where we get a result out of, not just all talk and no action. So I think it's going to be an interesting time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. It's a shame that our submission that will be public tomorrow wasn't able to form part of this for obvious reasons, and I understand why. Form part of the agenda for the public to see tonight, and we could speak to more directly. But it was a fantastic response, and as Councillor Jarman's already highlighted, it's congratulations to Matthew and the team. But in essence, it looks like our response is really focusing on keeping local in the local government. We've seen for many years now that the continual conversation around this particular topic and what's been identified or discussed in the local government board review, in my opinion, is frankly frightening. Again, I would congratulate the work that our councillors have done and the executive team and the response that hopefully tonight we will endorse. I suppose a recent example of how well our local government is working, as alluded to earlier this evening, is the public open space process that we went through in providing the opportunity for the community to actually participate and in a broader scale that we probably haven't seen before. And the fact that we were able to engage an independent third-party convener of all of that information and the benefits that provided to us as an organisation to formulate a strategic view and a strategic plan, which is only going to support the community moving forward. It was a fantastic process in demonstrating how technology can be used and provide the opportunity for people to actually have input in the direction of where they want to see their community heading. The current review and what's been provided thus far speaks to a number of different things. And the frightening thing for me was the fact that they talk about regional authorities. And with regional authorities, the first thing that comes to mind is Taswater. And I think how cumbersome Taswater is, and the fact that we would actually be dealing with a regional authority and not with a local government. And even though the local government would be an owner, if you like, of that particular authority, realistically, once you get corporate boards involved, we become a bit of a toothless tiger. So from that perspective, I wasn't, and this is where I'm really proud of the response that we've actually addressed a lot of those issues. And it's going to look, that will enhance, in my opinion anyway, the best outcomes for our community. Again, congratulations to Devonport City Council and standing up for and taking the lead in the conversation around this. And the Tasmanian community acknowledges that this needs to happen. So it's time that we get on with it, but we need to ensure that we keep the local in local government.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. Well, I share Councillor Jarman's excitement with the quality of our submission because it is equal to or better than our first submission, which went into stage one. I don't share her excitement about we're finally coming to an end point, or we can see an end point in sight for local government reform, because I don't mean to be negative. Most people around the table know my views on this. The phase one report that came out essentially to me kicked the can not down the road but across the road, because all of a sudden we've come into this new situation where instead of going for fewer larger councils as the overarching effect of local government reform, that's not going to happen. We're now going to sub-regional or regional entities to support the same amount of councils. So essentially we're going to a fourth layer of bureaucracy or government, if you like, or even pseudo-GBEs like Taswater, as mentioned by Councillor Murphy. Taswater, whether you like Taswater or not, they're an unaccountable body that causes issues for local government body or local government councils that want to get things done. If you want to compare a couple of case studies, you should compare and read our submission when it comes out. The startling revelation that Living City has become in a 12-year period, or whatever it was, or whatever it has been, and compare that to the Macquarie Point project in Hobart. Living City has been a whole of council project where council across each department can work things out. There are synergies. With Macquarie Point, it has gone nowhere in 10 to 12 years. Nowhere, not a sod turned at Macquarie Point. They received $50 million from a Labor government 10 to 12 years ago. Not a cent of that has been shown. Where is it? This is Macquarie Point. I'm not unloading on Macquarie Point. I'm pointing out the difference between dealing with these sub-regional, regional entities as opposed to a whole of council approach. So the model should be fewer, larger councils rather than off on this other tangent that we create these little entities, unaccountable entities because they're not elected, they're appointed, to become a point of tension with local government bodies that will lose a lot of their autonomy and authority and basically become a faceless body of councillors, if you like, and council that will receive complaint after complaint from the community. That's not their fault. So I go back to the Living City comparison to Macquarie Point, and that is a stark reminder, a stark reiteration to me that local government reform, coming out of phase 1 of this, the first report, we are still miles off, further off. We've just gone sideways. And I just want to make this point from the submission. I know it's going to be released tomorrow, but it's in here. Upon reflection, this is a comment from our General Manager, upon reflection, some of the most difficult parts of Living City have been areas outside of Council's control, such as third-party utility providers, government approvals, regional support, etc. It is these aspects that have been the hardest to overcome, highlighting the less autonomy and responsibility a council has for its own patch, the harder it becomes to achieve meaningful outcomes for its community. So you can imagine these little entities that have been created, little sub-entities. Devonport Council is still at 25,000, wants to get something done, contacts the sub-entity, before we know it, it's in a mess. So that is where we're heading with this. So I'm going to support the motion because it's essentially supporting our submission, which is outstanding. And I note from stage 1 that the Launceston Council and the Hobart Council and the councillors of the Burnie City Council and their General Manager are all of the same mind as us in their submission. And no doubt they will be in the second stage of these submissions. So I share your confidence in this report because it really is something special, but I don't share the confidence in getting local government reform to a point in my life where there will be reform. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Hollister.
I concur with what's been said. I also...
Which ones?
All of it. This review, it's the second review of the 3 that we're going to have. And going back to the example of Taswater, we've now got a government levy on waste management, and that's probably heading exactly the same way as Taswater. I believe Treasury wanted Taswater in the form it is now 10 years before it happened. And waste management's probably going down the track. At the moment we've got a small levy on it on the mainland. A lot of the waste management is their levies over there are $150, $160 a tonne, whereas we've got a very small levy at this stage. So we have to be very careful that we don't wind up with a similar sort of thing that's happening on the mainland. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Councillor Alexio?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to Councillor Perry. I think he made a very valid comment and totally agree with his comments. And I can hear his vein, and I fully support that. I can see where he's coming from. I'll just go back to when we went to the Leggett conference 2021, and the lesson that I sort of got out of that was that we had too many councils in Tasmania, and I think we had a conversation with you, Mayor, saying I think we're heading in the right direction. That was our biggest sort of outcry and our point put out. And then in the Advocate, we got bombarded with neighbouring councils saying, "What are you doing?" Blah blah blah. So the thing that I got is that we have to learn to adapt and to change, and that was probably one of the biggest things that Councillor Perry mentioned, is that for that to happen, we need lesser councillors, and that's what I thought the state government was trying to do at the time. But obviously it's twisted and turned, like Councillor Perry was saying. I can feel his vein. I'm coming from the same voice, and but I will support it. Thank you, Member.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Everybody's just about. Councillor Jarman, please.
Thank you. I am going to miss you, you know. Look, thank you. I'm very happy to sit down and talk to you further about Macquarie Point and what the debacle is there. I don't know much about that, so that's great. No, I agree. Latency wouldn't be where it is without this council and without everybody behind it, and for all the struggles that we know behind closed doors that have happened with different levels of government over the years trying to get this off the ground. Everyone loves what we've got now, but they don't realise the struggle. They don't realise all the work that's been behind it. Everyone loves the pretty stuff, how everything looks at the end of the rainbow, but they don't realise how hard it is to get to the other end of the rainbow. So, I think that what we've got to do is really watch what they do in this next phase, and we certainly need to hold them accountable because it's going to be our future. And there's only going to be a few of us around this table that maybe get re-elected, and obviously we're going to be losing some very sensible and very mature thought processes, and I hope that you can still be involved in that, because we need that experience of the councillors that maybe are leaving us over on the northwest coast. Need to still be involved in this process, so I hope that they will, because it's very important. We don't want to end up with a mess. We don't want to end up with something that we've got to go back and fix in another, 20, 30 years. Look what's happened on the mainland with some of the amalgamations, that dirty word over there that's happened, and they've gone back to where they were. So I certainly don't want to see that happen. So I hope that we can keep them accountable. I think Devonport has really been strong, and I hope we can continue to do that. And I suppose that's the whole point of us, being the size that we are, we need to stand up. And we need to not worry about what our councils on the other sides of our border are concerned about, because what they need to do is understand what we're getting at, read it and learn from it, and perhaps put their 2 cents worth in there. It's time for them to step up as well, because this is our time to actually have some say in it. So I hope that it's going to actually be something where we don't get at the end of it and nothing comes from it. We need something, but I don't want to mess either. So it will be very interesting, and thank you, Councillor Perry, for putting that into perspective. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for all the views around the table, and I understand the cynicism in some quarters. However, if we're not in the room, we can't change the outcome. So we have to be at the table. In that, we'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5.8 is a submission to the local government code of conduct draft legislation. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Jarman and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Jarman.
Oh, so I think it's a bit lightweight, personally, but anyway. Some of the changes that are going to be made in this certainly make sense and have been needed for a long, long time, and at least we've been heard. But I still think it's a little bit soft touch. I think it really needed to change the way we address a concern that's happened further up the coast. At least something's been done about that for the time being. But I think we don't ever want to go down that track again. If something like that happens, we need to have a due process that works. And we certainly need to make sure that this code of conduct legislation is also taken seriously by the general public as well, because we don't want people to just have a bit of a problem, a bit of a personal issue with someone and make it all about a code of conduct. We need people to really realise that it's about a serious concern, not just an airy-fairy grievance that someone might have because we don't agree. We all agree to disagree in this job, and we're always damned if we do and damned if we don't. That's how it is, and if you haven't got tough shoulders, don't run. But if we don't look at this code of conduct and get some major changes made, it's just going to be utilised for the wrong reasons. So some of the processes I certainly agree with in this legislation. I just think it should have been stronger, but I'm still happy to put it through. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the changes that have been proposed in the draft bill really do address some of the inequities, I suppose, in relation to some of the assessment processes around complaints, etc. Realistically, there will be ongoing further changes made into the future. Obviously, local government ministers come out recently and advise councils and local government that they're not going to happen in the short term, that they will be a medium to long term sort of resolution to get those addressed. But our response to those has been, again, first class. So again, congratulations to those in formulating those responses.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Councillor Alexander?
Yeah, I agree with fellow councillors on this matter. And I do think, again, it's a learning curve that something's happened along the coast that's triggered it probably a little bit more than what it would normally be. And something needs to be in place for something like that to happen. It's going to take a little bit of time. And I just thought it would have been an easier process for the minister, but unfortunately it's going to take a little bit longer, but at least we'll put our best foot forward here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Jones to close the debate.
Yeah, I'll just reiterate, it was easy for our state government to put in very quickly legislation to make compulsory voting very, very quickly. But it's too hard for them to say that before people run for council in October this year, that they must all prove that they are working with vulnerable. And I think that's the first thing that they should have made and done quickly. But we might get to that point. It's just a shame we couldn't make that happen this side of this year. But anyway, that's how it is. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.9 is councillor allowances, expenses and provision of facilities policy. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, seconder, please.
Second.
Councillor Shane, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Primarily, obviously, we've got statutory obligations that we have to meet, and this policy does that with the changes that have been identified in that. So realistically, there's not too much more to add. They're there for all to see.
Thank you. Councillor Jarman.
Yeah, I suppose it just clears it up and makes it a little bit more worthy going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the debate.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
Put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.10 is the signage strategy for 2022 to 27.
Second.
Councillor Perry and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
Oh, it's all in the report. Thank you, Mayor. I've got to say, anecdotally, I think our signage around the city has improved immensely in recent years, last 2 or 3 years. And I guess that's all sitting underneath the signage strategy. So it's all working well, and in the future, it will continue to do so. I think the signs look good. They're directive, and they well and truly serve their purpose. And I think it makes us look like a professional city when they're at that level. And long may it continue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, we went out to a well-publicised community consultation process. It may not have been as refined and as good as our public open space one, but nonetheless it was again providing that opportunity for the community to get involved. And yeah, we're moving forward, and I agree with Councillor Perry in relation to our signage throughout the city's looking really good. So, and we'll continue to do so as we meet our obligations in our signage strategy.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Alexiano.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I agree again with the councillors' comments. I'll just make one note. Something that I'd probably like to see, especially at East Devonport, is a welcome to Devonport sign at some stage. And if envisaging something will happen when the transport development happens in East Devonport. So I'll be looking forward to that. Thank you.
I think that is mentioned in the strategy. Certainly part of the plan going forward. Are there any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Perry to close the debate.
Thanks, Mayor. Just on Councillor Alexio's point, I do remember many years ago, perhaps 30 years ago, that there used to be a welcome to Devonport sign on yellow corrugated iron on that, I guess, the western wall of that little shopping centre that faces the river many years ago. I don't know what happened to it, but I think when the Spirits, when TT line expanded, can you remember that, John? No? Can you remember
Sorry. Oh, I can.
30 years ago, you'd remember it easily if you lived there.
I'm still in that old rock.
But it was definitely there, and then it went. I think when TT line became a serious player in the real estate there, and modified the assembly yard, it went for some reason. But yeah, I take your point that as the Mayor mentioned, it is in the strategy. So I'll leave it at that and close. Thank you.
Thank you. I put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.11 is Corporate Climate Change Adaptation Plan and Year 4 status update.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy.
Second.
Councillor Jarman. Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Merely an update, Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Jarman.
Yeah, I'm very pleased to read this and see where we're at too. It's a funny look. If you'd read this 20 years ago, you would have thought it was all a joke. You wouldn't have believed it. It's crazy how we've really come forward and people are now taking it so much so seriously. You know, a big part that I've always talked about is coastal erosion. It's a massive issue right around the world. And, you know, us being an island, it's certainly going to be, causes a lot of concerns for different residents up and down the coast in different councils. Our council handles ours very, very well. And I'm just really pleased to see where this is and how seriously we're taking it. And it is very good that we update it as we go along. Perhaps it might get to the point where we're adapting and making changes a bit more regularly as we go forward into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hollister.
Yes, I think this is a good plan. Probably one I've noticed recently is that walking from the mouth of the river to the bluff, there's only about half a metre of soil between high tide and our walking path. So we've already done some rock wall retaining in those areas, and we need a bit more, I think, before long. If the scientists have got it wrong, and it's more than a metre, we will have some fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on, as I said, year 4 of this plan that we've had in motion now. So there's still some work to do, and I'm assuming next year will be a refresh and looking at the next 5 years. Councillor Murphy, close.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, it is worth noting that 24 actions over the 5-year plan have been completed to date, as it states. 4 in progress and 13 are still ongoing, and 2 have not commenced. So it will be a busy year next year, but we have, you know, faith in the people that we have on the ground to deal with it, and I have utmost confidence that they will work through the plan and achieve what our goals are setting there.
Thank you. I'll close the debate and put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.12 is the Devonport Volunteering Working Group Terms of Reference. Do I have a move, please?
So moved.
Councillor Jarman, thank you. A seconder?
Second.
Councillor Murphy? Councillor Jarman.
Yes, this makes sense that we're bringing this back into a working group, and that they're going to be putting this together in November. Would that be correct, Mayor and General Manager?
Reading this, they'll be starting before then, and then there'll be councillors on board in November.
I see. Right. Yeah, no, it certainly makes sense, and it's a great organisations that are coming together into this group. So it'll be interesting to see what they can come up with. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. There are, I think, around the country challenges in obtaining volunteers and getting people to commit and volunteer their time to participate in community activities. So hopefully this will shape the aims and the objects and the roles for those in the scope in which they can actually move forward and endeavour to actually get more people involved.
Thank you. And the way council can support the volunteer organisations in our community over the next few years. Are there any other comments? I'll ask Councillor Jarman to close the debate.
Consider it closed.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 5.13 is the Sports Infrastructure Master Plan
So moved.
Priority Project. Councillor Murphy, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Councillor Perry, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a big one for Devonport, obviously. A lot of media around in relation to grant announcements and whatever else. We've gone through a very detailed process that has identified the area of most need in relation to where we should be looking to expend capital funds. They are broad in relation to what we need to look at, whether it's community support or supporting community-based participation, or whether we're looking to achieve here, potentially aiming for a bit bigger opportunity or a multi-sport indoor stadium facility for Devonport. This will be a long journey. I don't think this is going to happen in the short term. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of ground's going to be covered here. But it's worth noting at point 5 that no decisions on location have been made yet, and the final scope and associated project elements will be subject to a future council consideration. So there's still a long way to go. This will be a moving feast, if you like, and we're sure to receive many varied applications, but we'll have to address those as they come forward. But I think this is the next step from our residential growth strategy is this master plan for the future next 30, 40 years of where we see facilities in Devonport being at.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
Thanks, Mayor. I concur with Councillor Murphy's comments, and I just wanted to reiterate point 5, beat you to it a little bit. Council has shown it can deliver master plans, and I've got every confidence in the future council will be able to deliver this master plan. The big challenge on this one is the location, because there's some heavily invested areas that have been nominated by various groups, and that's fine. That's how it should be. That's all healthy, but that will be the challenge for council going forward on deciding where it should go. I'm pleased I'm not going to be one of those that help make that decision. So good luck with that. The council, as I said, can deliver on these master plans. We've shown that. Well, we've got the current management group, and they will again. And I wish them well when they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perry. Councillor Hollister.
Yes, I support the recommendation. I think some of this may change with review of the Local Government Act. If there's changes to the municipalities, we'll have to consider things in a much wider area than what we do now. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other? Councillor Jarman.
Thank you. I had the privilege of going to the Devon Netball Association dinner the other night on behalf of you, Mayor, and there's a lot of excited young ladies, because it's amazing how much they have to travel to Hobart or Launceston only to be able to play indoor, and they only have a few games actually up this way. The costs involved and just the time out of the whole weekend for these kids to travel all that way to be able to play netball. So I know they're very, very excited about this master plan, and I think it's one of the sports that's kind of been a little bit left behind compared to some of our other sport groups here, who seem to be going great guns with some of their systems. And I suppose the netball see the wonderful gymnasium being built right next to them, and they go, well, what about us? So they're feeling a little bit left behind. So I'm sure that they're going to certainly be putting their hand up and hoping to be part of this wonderful precinct if it gets to that. And I really look forward to us becoming the creme de la creme area of sport, which we used to be. So it'll be really nice to see if we can get back to that again. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Alexia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Again, I'll agree with the fellow councillors. I do raise point 5 noted there, and that's going to be a big decision coming forward on this project. It's taking a fair bit of discussion previous to this coming up to where we are at the moment with council. A lot of work's been by Carol Bryant to get the group together and get the discussions going. And we know that most of our facilities are starting to get outdated. They've served their time and it's time to upgrade. And the thing is, we're bringing a lot of other places like Latrobe, Sheffield, Burnie, close to Alderson, coming to visit Devonport to use our facilities here. That was one thing that I noted, part of the working group was that. So that's good that the surrounding places are visiting Devonport, and we want to see that we have the infrastructure in place to provide for them and for the future as well. But that location, point number 5, is going to be a huge decision for the group to work on. Thank you.
Thank you. And as has been said, a lot of work has already been done, but there's still a lot of work to do that hopefully will help the future council make that decision and become clearer as the information's gathered and put together in the future council.
Question, Madam Mayor.
You have a question, Councillor Holster?
It's at the weekend we had a lot of people from all over the state here for gymnastics, and I saw them afterwards. They were out the bluff, they were around the tracks and so forth. Does the gymnastics people give us an idea as to how many people came into the city for that sporting complex?
I'm not sure whether we gathered that information or not. We'll take that on notice.
Thank you.
I'll ask Councillor to close.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, councillors, for your input. It's interesting noting that the theme seems to be around location. There seems to be some consensus around what the future is going to look like. Taking into consideration we are going through a local government review, and Devonport's made its stand pretty clear in relation to what it sees potential municipal boundaries. The other thing we need to also note is that we need to learn from the mistakes that have been made historically along the coast here in relation to sporting infrastructure spending. Alston's a prime example of the basketball stadium there. But more importantly, we need to ensure as a council that the peak bodies, the state peak bodies of these sporting organisations are willing to commit to Devonport. And that would probably be the most important thing that we'll need to see happen out of this particular master plan. Because if the commitment is not there from the peak bodies to recognise Devonport as a regional hub, therefore they're not serious about supporting their own particular sport. And if they're not willing to support it, well, you know, our council's responsibility should be primarily around providing the necessary infrastructure for participation. And I think that needs to be a key focal point that needs to be remembered moving forward throughout this process, that unless there is peak body support, because that is going to assist, you know, we're not talking, you know, currently we've got $25 million sitting there, you know, a multi-purpose stadium, you know, potentially in the order of $50 million, so there's a significant shortfall. So either the community's going to have to tip some of that in, or we're going to have to seek further funding opportunities, and those opportunities are only going to come if we have that sport where that peak body's support to actually drive Devonport, and Devonport City is that regional hub. So I think moving forward there is going to be some challenges, but if we can get that recognition and that acknowledgement from those peak bodies, we are probably better placed than anyone else in the state in relation to being able to make some good decisions around supporting infrastructure. Consider it closed now.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 5.14 is the Devonport Retail Study for 2022. Do I have a mover?
So moved.
Councillor Terry.
Thanks, Mayor. Once again, quite an extensive, far-reaching strategy or documents, if you like. And if you ever want another good example of a whole of council approach to get a strategy, to fulfil a strategy and complete a project, this would be the classic example. That council can undertake a project like this and have its own departments talk to each other, rather than refer to third, fourth and fifth parties, and I refer to sub-regional and regional entities. This is it. This is another example of why we need fewer, larger councils than the fourth layer of regional and sub-regional entities. Thank you.
Councillor Perry, thank you. Councillor Jarman.
Yes, a very thorough and extensive, lot of research has been put into this. And I suppose, speaking on a personal point of view, working in retail, I'm working with a store that came to Devonport only 12 months ago. We just had our first birthday on Friday. And boy, our boss is very happy with us because we're in Devonport. We're a very successful store. We're right in the mall. And if everyone thinks that our mall is dead, they haven't been in the mall. They don't know what they're talking about. We've just got to be very careful going forward that we make sure that we've got more retail space for people that want to come here and put their businesses here. We've got to make sure that we've got the good car parking. And this is what a retail strategy does. It looks at the future and it makes a plan going forward. And I'm very, very proud of this research that's been done. So I look forward to the fact that people now are going to have the confidence to be able to approach us as a regional area, and hopefully that we can make room for these new bodies, businesses, the people that want to move here. And going forward, I think that the future is looking very, very bright for not just Devonport, but for the whole region that uses us for all the facilities that we present to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Councillor first.
Thank you.
Councillor Laycock.
The ladies first.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Congratulations to Mr. Skirving. It's a very solid document that we've read through. And I do look forward to your presentation with the Chamber of Commerce on Wednesday morning. That's a bit of a plug there if anybody wants to go along, which I'm sure they're going to be very impressed with. I do remember some years ago, I'm going back quite a bit, I can't tell you which year it was, but I did put forward a notice of motion and had 100% backing from the elected members that Devonport becomes the regional retail hub of the North West Coast. And I think we've achieved that, but we've gone that step further, and I think that is fantastic. And it was good to see in the discussion notes, because there's a lot higher figures than what I put forward at the time. The catchment area is what we talk about when we're talking about retail hubs and areas. And as much as people from other surrounding municipalities tell us that they don't shop in Devonport because this and something else, they shop here, we shop there, and we act as a regional area. But this is really good to see it come through. And I look forward to seeing Devonport grow every year, and that your retail study has to be updated on a very regular basis, Mr. Skirving. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. It's really interesting just noting, and I think this is an important statistic out of this entire study, and I just pulled it back up from when I read it. Since 2008, the amount of retail floor space in Devonport has increased by 22,200 square metres. But more importantly, is that's looking to double in a shorter period of time. And I think that's a real credit to the direction in which we're going. And this is just another valuable document that's actually going to assist in servicing and quantifying the argument that we are what we are, and that is emerging as the regional centre of the North West Coast. So congratulations to Mr. Skirving in driving this, and again, I think it's something that council and with its new partnership with the DCCI and the fact that I think they're actually looking to change their name too, from the Devonport Chamber of Commerce and Industry to the Living City commerce and industry. So obviously we've got some flow-on effects, and we're going to continue to do that. And watching Devonport become niche, we're not reliant upon multinationals. We're becoming niche, so we're providing a product that people are actually looking for. So well done, and we'll keep moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Councillor Hollister?
So one of the interesting things I found in the report was that we, as a regional area for retail, was compared with other regional areas all around Australia, and there wasn't many. I think there was about 5 things that shopping business that we didn't have here, and we had a lot more than a lot of these other regional areas apart from those. So I think that's very pleasing. We're obviously right up near the top as far as regional shopping centre goes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Erickson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, the councillors have made some good points out of the report. I just want to add to a couple of them, and that things I found was interesting was the location of where the expansion of the retail stores should be, and that wasn't to stagnate stores, to keep them more centrally involved. So that was good to see that. I note that Devonport acts as a retail and business hub serving the northwest of Tasmania, which is great. Not just Devonport, but the whole northwest. Devonport is a popular gateway to the northwest Tasmania and beyond. So again, we are the destination for people when they first get from the mainland to the spirit of Tasmania to Devonport. We are the gateway, and we're the gateway to most other places of the surrounding Devonport. Just wanted to add those points, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everyone's had a slide, so I'll ask Councillor Devonport.
Thanks, Mayor, and thank you everyone for your comments, some really good comments. I didn't neglect to congratulate Mr. Skirving and his team on putting together such a good report, and I've no question, no doubt that they will be able to deliver on that strategy, and it will come organically as well when the hotel's finally finished and things extrapolate out from that. But you know, the future for the city is looking really bright, and that is no accident. That's because of some big decisions made several years ago, and we are now on the cusp of something really good. And with a strategy like that, to leverage off that, then we really have some good times ahead. So I'll leave it at that and close. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6 is information, and item 6.1 is workshops and briefing sessions held since the last council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Murphy and Councillor Laycock. Any comments, Councillor Murphy?
Look, Mayor, that was one of the longest workshops that I've had in the 4 years since being on council, and some very, very important topics were discussed. So it's obviously showing that the process works.
Thank you. Councillor Laycock.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the debate.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
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 Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.2 is the Mayor's monthly report. Do I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Seconder.
Second.
Councillor Alexia, thank you. Councillor Murphy,
Mayor, it's congratulations, another busy one.
thank you. Councillor Alexia,
Well done, Mayor. Nothing further to add there.
thank you. Any questions, comments? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the debate.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.3 is the General Manager's report.
Second.
Councillor Perry and Councillor Murphy. Councillor Perry.
6.3. Another good month by the General Manager, of course. Just a question on discussion point 1.8, the Simon one. General Manager, developer of the Devonport Showground for an update. Are you privy to give us some sort of update on that update? Thank you.
Yeah, through you, Mayor. You just provide an update on the hearing process for the rezoning and how that was progressing. That was all.
Okay, thank you. And I'll leave it at that, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy, yes, the seconder.
Councillor Perry was all over me, he's got it covered.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Laycock.
I did want an update on Simon Mott, so that one's been done, thank you. I just want to mention 1.4 under the council management, Matthew, that, Mr General Manager, that how lucky we are to have Jane at the Devonport Library, just the wonderful things that she comes up with. I recently attended, and with quite a few other people, a briefing that Anna Royal, the new manager of the Novotel Hotel, gave people. And it's people like Jane that really bring it to the forefront, that people have that opportunity to find out from these people exactly what's happening. So she's worth a lot to Devonport. Your meeting with 2.1, and I know I was part of that meeting, but the Devonport Brass Band, their situation, but I don't think a lot of the general public understand what's happening there. Could you just give us a couple of points for the sake of the general public, would you mind?
Yes, through you, Mayor. The executive for the brass band came and met with myself just to provide an update really on the situation. They're currently located in a building that they own, which is on it sits on land that's now been sold as part of the showground site. And this is working through with the new owner, what the future might look like, and I think it's fair to say still a way to go there. And my feedback to the band was just to continue to keep council updated and informed on how it's progressing.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Alexia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just want to congratulate the General Manager on a good month, and I understand at 2.4 that you actually met with Mr. Bellicott, so that's good that you got a chance to have a meeting there and you met with him. I do have a question for the General Manager, and that is item 2.2. You attended the Australian Cup soccer game at Valley Road. Just wanted to know whether you enjoyed the game.
Through you, Mayor, yes, it was an enjoyable game, but it would have been better if they won.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other, Councillor Alston?
Parking in Middle Road, is that an old issue or a new issue?
Through you, Mayor, about a 6-month-old issue that we're working through. Connected to the Capital Works project that the council's doing, top end of William Street.
Thank you. Councillor Perry, to close the debate.
Consider it closed, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion's carried unanimously. Item 6.4 is the infrastructure and works report.
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, seconded.
Second that.
Councillor Alexio, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. Very detailed report as per normal. A couple of things worth noting. Over $30 million worth of capital works being undertaken at the moment. It's a significant number, which is a positive sign of where we're at. And just a side note, I overheard I happened to be at the same game as the Mayor and Councillor Jarman and Councillor Hollis and Councillor Alexia and the General Manager at Valley Road. And the comment was made around how council was able to provide the necessary assistance in getting the renovations to the front entrance done and how well that worked. And they were, I was listening to this conversation, and they thought it was it was pretty fantastic how within a short period of time that they were able to achieve the outcome that was achieved, and it worked very well on the evening. So, and obviously. We've still got a bit of an issue down there at the Bluff when we have these major storm events.
Thank you. Councillor Murphy, Councillor Alexio is the second.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Nothing further to add there.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? Councillor Murphy.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 6.5 is the Development and Health Services report. Do you have a move, please?
So moved.
Councillor Murphy, thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second.
So Alexia, thank you. Councillor Murphy.
Thanks, Mayor. This one is just merely procedural. Just is worth noting that 10 building applications were received for the month, which seems to be bucking the national trend at this particular point in time.
Thank you. Councillor Alexia.
Nothing further to add, Madam
Councillor Holster.
In the bar chart, I've got my monthly breakdown of dwellings and stuff. I've got 12 single dwellings, 12 other got industrial rooms, but we've got a light blue bar chart, whatever, it's got nothing on it. I was just wondering what it was.
What page are you on, Councillor Holster?
Page 75.
Through you, Madam Mayor.
Ms Munson.
Yep, I actually noticed that same thing, Councillor Hollister, and it's actually tourism. So off the top of my head, that would be like Airbnbs that are gaining approval.
So there was
And
no,
it's a missing title.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the pie chart. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, I was looking for a bar chart, not in front of me. Okay, excellent, thank you. Question answered.
thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments, questions? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the debate.
Consider it closed, Mayor.
With the motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 7 is section 23 committees, and item 7.1 is planning authority committee meeting in minutes of the 8th of August.
So moved.
Councillor
Second.
Murphy and Councillor Perry. Councillor Murphy.
Merely procedural, Mayor.
Councillor Perry.
Nothing to add, thank you.
Any comments, questions from anyone else? I'll ask Councillor Murphy to close the debate.
Consider it closed.
With the motion, all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Motion is carried unanimously, and I now need a motion to move into
So
closed
moved.
session. Councillor Murphy.
Second.
And Councillor,
Laycock.
any comments from either of you?
Merely procedural, Mayor.
Nothing to add.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Motion is carried unanimously, and that brings us to a close of the open section of this month's council meeting. Thank you everyone for your attendance.